wow, this was an absolute banger fight night card that we had. And not only that, we also got almost every single fight right, minus Oumar Sy. All right, we'll get to the professional bag salesman in a second here. But overall, I had a lot of fun watching this fight night with my friends because this was banger after banger after banger with a couple of duds here and there. But we got to focus on the bangers here first. But regardless, though, I'm going to be recapping every single fight on this card in case you guys haven't watched. Starting off with Pierra Rodrigues versus Sam Hughes. This was better than I thought. I don't think most of you watched this fight, but this was actually better than what you would think. I expected a lot more shadow boxing at range, like every typical women's MMA fight. But no, Pierra Rodrigues actually tried to take it to Sam Hughes and beat her up over the course of 3 rounds. And I am impressed with Sam Hughes because Sam Hughes, she was able to survive, and she has had a couple of wins in the UFC, and she looks solid for a time, but Pierra Rodrigues just landed the more damaging shots, and Pierra Rodrigues also committed more with combinations, whereas Sam Hughes on the feet, all she did was throw a jab and a calf kick. But either way, though, Pierra Rodrigues gets it done. The grappling kind of neutralized itself as well, because I thought that Sam Hughes, if she had to struggle, she was going to resort to her grappling and make it a grimy fight, but Pierra Rodrigues just didn't allow that in the first place. Her takedown defense was really solid in this fight, and I was actually impressed with Pierra Rodrigues. Do I think that she's going to be a top contender in the strawweight division? Probably not, but this was overall a good showcase from Pierra Rodrigues. The grappling, again, she defended very well, and on the feet, she just picked apart Sam Hughes, and overall made it a fun scrap. Moving on, we got Luan Lacerda versus Hecher Sosa. This was a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought that Hecher Sosa was going to take a similar approach to his Dana White Contender Series fight, where he just smudges the guy against the canvas for 3 rounds. But no, Hecher Sosa actually showed out and landed a lot of damaging strikes in this fight. Luan Lacerda, again, not the highest level of competition, but he showed a lot of heart in this fight. And I think that Hecher Sosa was just outlanding him. I will say, though, that this was close. I know the first round Luan Lacerda won because he landed a devastating knee to Hecher Sosa. I thought that Hecher Sosa was going to get knocked out from that knee, but fair enough. He got a tough chin. And then in rounds 2 and 3, Hecher Sosa was able to pick apart Luan Lacerda with the more damaging shots. And even though both of these guys, their grappling couldn't work, which is primarily their A game, Hecher Sosa proved to be the better mixed martial artist by just mixing in the takedowns and the striking a lot better than Luan Lacerda. Hecher Sosa gets it done. It was a relatively fun scrap, which I didn't think was the case. I thought that Hecher Sosa was going to try to smudge Luan Lacerda in this fight. But yeah, Hecher Sosa gets it done. Do I think he's going to be a contender by any means? Not necessarily, but maybe I'll be wrong. All right, maybe he goes on a couple of wins, and the next thing you know, he'll be challenging for a ranking spot in the bantamweight division. Mesquita destroys Montse Rendon in the first round. Now, I expected a little bit more resistance out of Montse Rendon. I thought that Mesquita was going to submit her probably in the second round, but no, Mesquita gets the job done, dropping Montse Rendon with a step back right hand, and then from there, she throws a couple of ground and pound shots after dropping her, and then proceeding to find the rear naked choke to end the fight. Very impressive stuff from Mesquita. She's clearly better than most of the unranked section of the women's bantamweight division. I thought that she was going to have a lot of struggle on the feet, but her striking looks pretty solid. All right, her striking does look pretty solid, and I think that Mesquita, do I think she's going to be like a future champion? Hard to say. She is fighting the unranked sections of the women's bantamweight division right now, but still though, I do like what I'm seeing from her, and I think that she is warranted a very good opponent, if not someone within the rankings, because it's clear that she's beating the unranked women's bantamweights and pretty easily. So I think by now she should be getting a ranked opponent. But overall, great job from Mesquita. I did not expect much out of her striking in this fight, but she still was able to get the job done. Primarily just dropping her and then looking for a submission while throwing a lot of ground and pound shots. But yeah, very impressive performance from Mesquita overall. I just watched two unks at the cookout fight each other, and Eryk Anders was able to come out on top. Now, I will say, though, Eryk Anders, he looked incredibly slow in this fight. But the difference in this fight was the grappling, and also, Brad Tavares' chin is absolutely cooked. Like, Brad Tavares was getting dropped multiple times in this fight. In Brad Tavares' prime, I could see him tanking a lot of those shots, but unfortunately, Brad Tavares, he just got no chin at this point, and his takedown defense is starting to deteriorate, because Eryk Anders, I would say he's a solid grappler, but Tavares has been facing better grapplers in his prime, and he was able to defend a lot of those takedowns in the past. But still, though, Brad Tavares versus Eryk Anders, it was a solid fight. Eryk Anders retired after this fight. Fair enough. Like, I don't think bro's gonna go on a generational title run by any means, but still, though, Eryk Anders still came out on top. It's a good thing to see, because typically these unks will be fed to the next upcoming prospect and get destroyed in the process. But either way, this was a solid-ish fight. It was just clear that both guys were incredibly washed, but Eryk Anders was just less washed and got the job done via decision. This was an insane back-and-forth scrap between Bolaji Oki and Manuel Sousa. I will say, though, Manuel Sousa, his grappling is still kind of concerning to me. Like, in the early parts of the fight, like, I thought that Manuel Sousa could have just ground and pounded his way into a first round TKO, but for some reason, he was very insistent on going for a Kimura, and Bolaji Oki was able to strength mock Manuel Sousa and just reverse position and hold dominant position for the rest of the first round without putting that much effort into it. But as the fight progressed, Manuel Sousa just picked his shots better, and he looked technically cleaner as the fight progressed. I don't know how that works, because early on in the fight, Manuel Sousa was just swinging like a tard, like a fun tard, to be fair, but still like a tard. But as the fight progressed, Manuel Sousa started to use his jab and throw straight punches very effectively, which I did not expect, because typically as the fight progresses, most fighters will get sloppier. But no, Manuel Sousa is quite the opposite. Again, I still think that the grappling is concerning, but he is very fun to watch. And he puts out Bolaji Oki in brutal fashion in the third round. Again, insane scrap. If Marwan Rahiki versus Hardwick didn't happen later on in the card, I do think that this would have warranted fight of the night. But either way, though, Bolaji Oki and Manuel Sousa, this was an amazing, fun scrap to watch. And Manuel Sousa was able to come out on top because he's just got a different dog in him. And eventually, Bolaji Oki does fade as the fight progresses. And Manuel Sousa gets it done. He is fun. He is fun. I don't think he's going to be a top contender by any means. I do think he'll struggle when he gets close to the rankings. But either way, though, Manuel Sousa, he could just put anybody out in the later rounds of the fight, because this guy doesn't slow down. This guy doesn't slow down. The only way you can really stop him as of right now is if you implement a heavy grappling approach against him. Elijah Smith is next up in the bantamweight division. This guy is special, alright? Now, I will say, SuYoung was doing a good job in the first round. He was able to chain together some takedowns and keep Elijah Smith scrambling over and over again in order to neutralize the athleticism and explosivity. But in the second round, Elijah Smith was just piecing up SuYoung on the feet, dropped him with a right hook, I believe, and then proceeded to jump the back and secure himself a tight-ass rear naked choke. Alright, Elijah Smith is special. I'm going to say it right now. Unfortunately for my Korean brethren, he just had to fight one of the future bantamweight champions of the UFC. But still, though, Elijah Smith, he said he wants to fight on the New Jersey card. That's going to happen in May. Put him on the New Jersey card. This guy is a superstar in the making in the bantamweight division. And I think that this guy, moving forward, if we give him maybe one or two more tune-up fights, I think after that he's gonna get himself a ranked opponent. Right off the bat, I think he's way better than Raul Rosas Jr. and David Martinez. But fair enough, they're ranked and he's not. But either way, though, I think Elijah Smith should be getting those same opportunities. And if he can get one or two more wins, I don't think a ranked opponent is that far-fetched in the near future. And I really believe in Elijah Smith. I fully believe that he's gonna go on a generational title run in 3-4 years time. Moving on, we got Vitor Petrino versus Steven Asplund. This was a great scrap as well. Unfortunately, Steven Asplund lost this fight, but fair enough. Steven Asplund did show a lot of good things. I thought that Petrino was going to dominate Steven Asplund on the ground. Alright, that was my thought process going into this fight. But no, Steven Asplund was able to defend the takedowns well. He did drop Petrino early on in the fight and had him on skates. But the difference in this fight was Petrino's jab, and Steven Asplund, he did gas out as the fight progressed, which rarely happens to him. And Petrino was able to pick him apart with the jab and the calf kicks, and overall, cumulative damage was the big factor in this fight. Hats off to Vitor Petrino. I did not think he was going to do well if he couldn't take down Steven Asplund. But even without the takedowns, he was still able to beat Steven Asplund. And as for Steven Asplund, listen, I still think that he's going to do great things. This is just a minor setback for him. But I do believe that Steven Asplund is still a prospect to be out of the lookout for in the heavyweight division. It's just unfortunate he lost to Vitor Petrino right now, but he showed a lot of heart. And I'm very happy for Steven Asplund regardless, and I hope to see him come back stronger after this fight, because I don't want him to see him like be all, you know, mopey and sad after this. But yeah, I really love Steven Asplund even though he lost this fight. As for Vitor Petrino, I think that move up to heavyweight is actually pretty good. He has had some iffy fights in the past, but he's been looking consistently good. I guess the fluky win Anthony Smith got over him, like, I shouldn't really look too deep into it now, because Vitor Petrino, I think he separated himself a little bit from that fight. But either way, though, Vitor Petrino gets it done by decision, by masterclass of the jab. Right? But overall, this was a great fight, and hats off to both of these fighters for putting on a great scrap. Moving on, we got Chris Curtis versus Mytybek Orolbai. Now, I will say that it was impressive how Orolbai was able to take down Chris Curtis at will. And considering Chris Curtis is notoriously difficult to take down, again, that is an actual good feat for Mytybek Orolbai. That being said, though, this fight was kind of underwhelming. I do feel like at times that Mytybek Orolbai was just holding position for the sake of holding position. But that shouldn't take away from the fact that it was a super impressive fight from Mytybek Orolbai. Because again, Chris Curtis, again, he is really hard to take down. Brendan Allen had a very hard time. And arguably, Chris Curtis beat Brendan Allen, like, not that long ago. But either way, though, Chris Curtis, like, I don't know. He just doesn't look good at welterweight. I feel like he should move back up to middleweight at this point, because the skill difference was very apparent. Like, the lightweight skill versus middleweight skill, like, even though Chris Curtis should be the much bigger fighter on paper, Mytybek Orolbai just looks way different in there. Like, I don't think Chris Curtis really experienced anybody as skilled as Mytybek Orolbai, and it showed in this fight, because even though Chris Curtis was doing the right things, Mytybek Orolbai was just a step above, or maybe 2 steps above Chris Curtis in all the wall wrestling situations. But either way, though, good job from Mytybek Orolbai. Again, was a little bit underwhelming, but either way, though, it was impressive to see how effortlessly he was able to dominate Chris Curtis in this fight. Moving on, we got Charles Johnson versus Bruno Silva. Now, I will say this, all right? Like, if you want to argue Charles Johnson won this fight, I'm not going to complain about that. Like, Charles Johnson did outland Bruno Silva, but visually, I thought that Charles Johnson was losing this fight, because he just looked very skittish. Charles Johnson looked very hesitant in this fight, and whenever Bruno Silva was landing, he got the bigger reactions out of Charles Johnson. So I thought that visually, Bruno Silva looked to be the fighter in more control, but the judges went based on the significant number of strikes in this fight. I'm not going to call it a robbery, but like, watching it live, I thought that Bruno Silva won, like, rounds 1 and 3. And Charles Johnson, like, fair enough, it was on short notice. It wasn't a statement-making performance by any means. I don't know if he's going to get a top 10 opportunity again. He did just lose to Alex Perez like 2 months ago. But he got the job done. Very hairy performance, to say the least. But yeah, I wouldn't have been shocked if Bruno Silva won this. Like, visually, he just looked to be the better fighter in this fight. But yeah, overall, though, Charles Johnson gets it done. And this wasn't a convincing performance, but he got the job done on short notice, so there's that. Moving on, we got Cutelaba versus Oumar Sy. This was the only fight I got wrong on this card because Oumar Sy is a professional bag salesman. The guy literally had opportunities to try and turn the tide of the fight, but instead he would rather play jiu-jitsu, pulling De La Rivas off bottom position as if he's in the jiu-jitsu comp for some reason, and then proceed to get tapped by a mounted guillotine. Oumar Sy is complete trash. I am never picking Oumar Sy to win another fight again. Ion Cutelaba, fair enough. Like, I did think that he had a lot of good things about him, but I thought in between all of the crazy grappling transitions and all of the dangerous strikes that he throws, I thought that Ion Cutelaba was going to get out-volumed by Oumar Sy in this fight, especially because of the range advantage that Oumar Sy has. But unfortunately, Oumar Sy is just big for no reason. The guy literally doesn't fight. He just pulls guard and tries to throw up a De La Riva out of nowhere rather than trying to fight in the MMA fight. Like, I don't know what he's doing. But yeah, either way though, Ion Cutelaba gets it done. Round 1, mounted guillotine. This was a pretty good performance from Ion Cutelaba, I will say, because I thought that Oumar Sy was going to cancel Ion Cutelaba's grappling advantage, but no, Cutelaba had a apparent grappling advantage in this fight. And he was just a step ahead in all of these exchanges and eventually secured himself a mounted guillotine in the first round. But yeah, either way though, Oumar Sy, you are complete dog shit. I'm never picking you to win another fight. But as for Ion Cutelaba, I didn't think he was going to do it that quickly. I thought that he was going to struggle a little bit. You know, he struggled with Ibo Aslan a little bit more than Oumar Sy. But it just proves that Oumar Sy is absolute garbage. And you should never pick Oumar Sy to win another fight in the UFC. Moving on, we got Marwan Rahiki versus Harry Hardwick. An absolute banger of a fight between these two. Marwan Rahiki is a prospect to be out on the lookout for, all right? Now, do I think that he's, like, the most technically gifted prospect? Or, like, do I seriously believe he's going to be a future champion? Not really, because he does get hit a lot. And I don't know how long his chin is going to last if he keeps fighting like this. But either way, though, Marwan Rahiki, guy's a dog, bro. Like, Harry Hardwick came out to fight in this fight, unlike what he had for Kyle Fernandez, but fair enough, that was on short notice. But still, though, like, he had a lot better showcase for himself. And Harry Hardwick, in hindsight, he's not complete trash. I thought after the Kyle Fernandez fight, Harry Hardwick should be complete trash. But no, Harry Hardwick was landing a lot of shots on Marwan Rahiki. The difference, however, was in the power, because Marwan Rahiki destroyed Harry Hardwick's chin in the second round. And the doctor ultimately called the fight off. Marwan Rahiki, like, again, he does get hit. The grappling will be tested in his future. But for now, if you slow roll this guy, Marwan Rahiki is one of the best prospects to come out of the featherweight division. And I do believe that Marwan Rahiki, you know, in a couple of years' time, maybe he'll test himself in the rankings. But either way, this was a super impressive performance from Marwan Rahiki. Absolute banger of a war. And I really love the featherweight division right now. We got a lot of upcoming talent that, you know, you really wouldn't have thought otherwise. Like, especially in the main event with Kevin Valles, who I'll get to in a second. But either way, though, Marwan Rahiki gets it done. Harry Hardwick isn't complete trash. Both of these guys put on a fun fight, and I'm very happy for both of these guys. And I hope that they don't cut Harry Hardwick after this, because that's kind of an unfortunate matchup. But either way, though, Marwan Rahiki versus Harry Hardwick was an absolute banger and arguably one of the best fights so far in 2026. Moving on, we got Andre Fili versus Jose Miguel Delgado. Jose Miguel Delgado get the job done. I'm surprised by a split decision because I thought that Delgado clearly won rounds 2 and 3. I will say the first round, like, Andre Fili was putting on some mustard on Delgado. Like, the right hand dropped Delgado and it took him a while to really compose himself again. But the second and third round, Delgado adjusted, throwing a lot more kicks and just moving around a little bit more. And overall, I thought Delgado did the more cleaner work in this fight. Andre Fili did surprise me, though. I thought that he was going to get run over, just like how he got run over by Dan Ige, Melquiz Alcosta, and all of these ranked contenders in the featherweight division. But Jose Miguel Delgado, like, he struggled a little bit. He struggled a little bit against Andre Fili. fair enough, Andre Fili is a pretty long and awkward featherweight, which Jose Miguel Delgado is usually used to fighting with the range advantage. But either way, though, Jose Miguel Delgado gets the job done. Does need some work, especially in this grappling defense. I do think that grapplers in the future will test Delgado a lot in the takedown department. But either way, though, I liked what I saw from Delgado. He composed himself. He looked a lot better in the 3-rounder than his last fight with Nathaniel Wood. And arguably, Nathaniel Wood should have lost that fight. But either way, though, Miguel Delgado got the job done. And he's back on track. And hopefully the UFC can get him some easy matchups so we can potentially find him in the rankings in the near future. Moving on, we got Amanda Lemos versus Jillian Robertson. Amanda Lemos was landing the better shots in this fight, but unfortunately, what came to the difference was Jillian Robertson's grappling. Now, I will say, Jillian Robertson, her striking is very worrying, to say the least, especially against these top contenders. I don't think Jillian Robertson really offers much of a threat on the feet, but her grappling's solid. Now, I did expect a little bit more dominance out of her. I thought that she was going to be able to hold Amanda Lemos down with little bit less resistance, but fair enough to Lemos. I guess she's been preparing for a lot of grapplers throughout most of her career, so maybe she's worked on that a little bit, so that's why Jillian Robertson struggled. But either way, though, Robertson was able to take down Amanda Lemos in the second and third round, make it a very grimy fight. Wasn't the best fight by any means. Like, it wasn't a statement-making performance. But either way, though, Jillian Robertson gets it done. She's on a 5-fight win streak. A title elimination bout for her at this point is warranted because she's beaten a lot of contenders in the strawweight division. And I think that Jillian Robertson will get a title elimination bout sometime in the future. But she got it done. Do I think she's going to be a champion by any means? Hard to say. Like, I don't think that this was a championship-level fight. But Jillian Robertson got the job done. So, good for her. Moving on to the main event, we got Josh Emmett versus Kevin Vallejos. Kevin Vallejos is him, bro. Kevin Vallejos absolutely destroyed Josh Emmett in the first round via the boxing, which is not very common for Josh Emmett. You know, Josh Emmett, I did see him get submitted by Yusuf Zalal, and he is past his prime, but nobody really dusts up Josh Emmett in the striking like that. Like, Topuria couldn't finish Josh Emmett on the feet. Like, Kevin Vallejos is just different. Like, he is Ilia Topuria-esque. And I think that Kevin Vallejos, moving forward, he's going to be a serious threat in the featherweight division. Now, do I want to see him fight like an immediate top contender for a title elimination bout? Probably not. But who knows? Like, at this point, I was going to say that Kevin Vallejos, we should slow down the roll with him if he struggled a little bit more. But after what he did to Josh Emmett, like, go for it. Like, shoot for the stars. Like, let's see if you can get a title elimination bout against Yair Rodrigues. Like, we need to get Yair Rodrigues out of the top 5. We found our answer to how we can get Yair Rodrigues out of the top 5, and that is Kevin Vallejos, because he's legit. He is so special. The boxing combinations are a beauty to watch, because every time Josh Emmett tried to come in, Kevin Vallejos just countered him up the top, and eventually Emmett couldn't really do anything. He just covered up, and Vallejos just picked him apart to the body, to the head, and Vallejos got the job done via round 1 TKO. You know, a lot of banger fights, kind of slow fights in the end. This fight really pissed me off between Ion Cutelaba versus Oumar Sy. But outside of that, though, like, this was a very solid fight card. I might even give this a 9. I might even give this a 9 because there were so many bangers to count on this card. But yeah, other than that, though, if you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can monetize this channel. But other than that, leave any comments down below for video suggestions you have for me. I will be making a fights to make after this event for all the winners and some of the losers of this card. But either way, though, this was an overall banger of a card, and I hope that the UFC, if they're gonna make Apex events, I hope they make more events like this. But yeah, otherwise, though, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.